Hi there, and welcome to another live. It's 7 p.m. in state-controlled Britain, and we're allowed to transmit tonight. And I've got the wonderful Dr. Abs with me. Dr. Abs, hello.
Hello, Stephen. Thank you very much for having me again.
Well, that's all right. Thank you for stepping in for Richard, who is busy, very busy, putting the Carnivore Conference together, which is next weekend, which both Abs and I are speaking at. So we'll have Heather Foley and Lee Copus and Carnivore Muscle, and we've also got obviously Dr. Anthony Chafee doing a live Zoom with us as well. So that's going to be pretty good. And at the end of this, I'll put a link into the Carnivore Conference. And if you use the code Stephen, STEPHEN, and you book your ticket, you'll get £20 off, which is great. Now, obviously, someone has been very clever and realised that we've got Dr. Abs on. So we're going to jump straight into the questions. Thank you, Squid Tooth, for the $30. That is a brilliant super chat, which I think has gone to Dr. Abs, which is fine because the question is for Dr. Abs. And just to remind people, if you've got a question, put it in the live chat with a Q in front of it. And if you want to jump the queue, then you can do a super chat and you get our full and frank attention straight away. So anyway, let's get straight into this three-part question from Squid Tooth. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a Dr. Abs follower with that name, isn't it? Here's a three-part question, or she does. I don't know who that is. After dermarolling, and Abs, if you don't mind talking about dermarolling for people who don't know what that is, once we get into the question, should I clean my face with an alcohol wipe, or is it not recommended?
Okay, so after dermarolling, first of all, let me jump to the first bit, the dermarolling. For those that don't know, you're using a dermaroller, which I don't have one with me here, but I'm sure you can Google it and figure out what it is. It's basically a barrel with some needles on the outside, and then it kind of rolls across your skin. And the point of this is, when done appropriately, and it's done safely, it's done in a way that's correct for that particular person, you can actually use this to create micro trauma to your skin in the same way that going to the gym causes micro trauma to the muscle fibers. Now, the gym isn't deleterious for your health because small amounts of trauma can be stimulation as opposed to damaging. And it's the same thing here. It's a very small amount of trauma. In fact, you can't even see the puncture. It's that tiny. But what it does is allows the body to recognize it, and it can actually create collagen stimulation to some extent. And it can have effects such as thickening the skin, improving the skin elasticity, improving the skin's firmness and resilience, all these fancy words that people like to use without being too complicated. And it can even help in certain ways for things like pigmentation, for example. You have to be very careful how you use it for collagen versus pigmentation, but that's a lecture for another day. In fact, I have videos on both on my channel if you're interested. But sorry, you're about to say something, Stephen.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm smiling at you.
I thought you were going to say something.
I will jump in a minute. Yes.
So the key to making sure you're safe at home is making sure that one of the things is that everything is clean and sterile if possible. So you want to make sure that before you dermarol, your skin is cleaned very effectively. If you haven't been going out anywhere, covering yourself in sweat from cycling all day and things like that, and you've just been relaxing at home, there's nothing really built up on your skin. Bit of a rinse with water should be absolutely fine. If you're concerned about other things on your skin, you can use a gentle cleanser. Many on the market, you don't have to spend a lot of money, and then you can dermarol. And then once that's done, then the key is not just to clean your face, but also to clean the dermaroller. So I know the question is asking about cleaning the face, but I'll talk about both. So when you're cleaning your face, you don't need to do a huge amount. You can just, if you are going to put skincare on, you can just put your skincare on straight away, because the dermaroller itself, we're assuming it's clean when it's being used. And we're assuming your skin is clean before you've started. Unless you've cleaned your skin, have a sterile dermaroller, you've then done it on your face, and then roll around in the mud, there shouldn't be a need to immediately worry about some big cleansing routine post dermarolling. So your face should be clean because it was clean to start with, and the dermaroller was. If you're going to clean off maybe some drops of blood, not that there should be, massive amounts of blood at all. But if there's a couple drops here and there, nothing wrong with taking a little bit of warm water and just rinsing it off with that. That's absolutely fine. In terms of the Dermaroller itself, you've got a couple options. You can either just dunk it in some boiling water for a minute or so in a cup, or a little bit easier, what I also do is I give it a bit of a rinse under the tap, hot water if I can. And then what I'll do, I will flick the barrel. So you've got a handle that's quite long, a bit like a pen. If I have a pen around here somewhere. Okay, here we go. So there's a handle that's quite long, and then there's a barrel on the end which spins in this direction that my finger is doing on screen for those of you watching this on video and not audio. All you do is you flick the barrel so it's spinning, and as it's spinning, I will spray the isopropyl alcohol spray, which is what I use, so it covers the entire barrel out as it's spinning, and that will then sterilize the barrel. And then I will then make sure once that's sterile, the case that the roller comes in, I will actually spray the inside of the case with the same isopropyl alcohol, so that's nice and sterile, and then I'll put it inside. So the entire environment that the roller is stored in is sterile at all times. And I've been doing this for a very long time. I've never had an issue. I've never had a patient have an issue. It's really not as dangerous as clinics will have you believe, in my personal opinion. I think it's in most clinics' best interest to make you think it's extremely dangerous, so that you then pay them to do it. Frankly, that's let's be honest, that's how the industry actually works. I'm surprised not more people speaking out about it. But that should be a good guide as to how you maintain cleanliness and sterility throughout the whole process. I hope that's answered the question, Squidtooth.
Well, it goes on to the three parts. The second part is, can dermarolling help the loose skin under the jawline? Which is a nice little segue for me to say, I was on No Carb Life's channel last week, and someone did not believe I was 60. You might have seen my reel about this, but anyway, and said I must be 40. And if not, then I must have had cosmetic surgery. Now, what's this got to do with this question? Can dermarolling help the loose skin under the jawline? Well, I've got loose skin under the jawline, and if I'd have paid for cosmetic surgery, these gels I would have got rid of. I tell you, I have no problem with cosmetic. If I had the money to have cosmetic surgery, I would have it, and I'll tell you, it'd be that simple. But I haven't. So, and here's the punchline to this: if you haven't got the money for that, then you've got to do the best you can do. And my best is to do carnivore, to do some activity, get out in the sun, and not drink things that are bad for me, and not smoke. And that's it, really. So now I am actually a person that listened to Dr. Abs and started dermarolling. So I will tell you, because when I get to my gels, I dermaroll like a good one. So I think that firstly, I listen to Dr. Abs because he's fantastic, and secondly, it's something I'd never even considered. So even though I'm 5.5 years into carnivore, we still learn every single day. You meet a new person, you hear something, it makes sort of sense, and you think, I'm going to try that. So keep your wits about you with everything. And then the third part of the question is, have you started dermarolling yet? Yes. And if so, what size needles did you get? I simply got the one that Dr. Ab sent me a link for, which I believe is 1 millimeter.
I think most people will be in that ballpark with regards to the size of the needle. The difference comes to the area of skin under the eye, and I mean immediately under the eye. So if you were to feel your cheeks, okay, and your jaw and your chin and your forehead, there's some level of thickness to the skin. It's not exactly the same everywhere, but it's some level of thickness. Then if you suddenly get the skin immediately under the eyelashes, it's ridiculously thin compared to everywhere else. And you will feel on your cheek, and I'm doing this on camera. I apologize to the people who you're listening to this on the way back on the audio version. But I'm putting my fingers on the front of my cheeks, either side of my nose, and then slowly moving them up towards my eye. As you do that, you will feel a junction, okay, where it goes from thin to thick or thick to thin. That is what we call the lid cheek junction, okay? Now, the thin side of that junction, that skin is where there will be a complete reduction in needle size, because the skin is completely reduced in terms of thickness. The skin there is, on average, is going to be around 0.1 millimeter, depending on which scientific paper you'd like to read or which measurement you make on your or someone else's face. Because it's only 0.1, it would be stupid to do a 1 millimeter length in something like that, because you're going to go into fat pads and things like that. You're going to cause trauma as opposed to stimulation, which is why needling works. It's stimulation, not trauma. So you have to reduce that length in that region. As to exactly what you reduce it to, it does depend to some extent based on that person and their appearance and things. I can only give you a range, and it's a big range. You know, even if you're at one end of this range, it could still cause you issues because you need to be at the other end, and it's impossible to say without seeing you. So take this with a pinch of salt, but it would be something along the lines of, let's say, somewhere between 0.1 and maybe 0.25, possibly 0.3 in really thicker skins like Far Eastern skins, Asian skins, something like that. Whereas everywhere else, again, rough ballpark might be a millimeter for most people. But again, you do need a consultation to get an absolute perfect answer for you individually.
Great. That's a really good answer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marianne Hill, for the $4.99. I don't know whose channel it's gone to, but anyway, it's either myself or Dr. Abs. All those super chats are really helpful. At the moment, I'm under the cosh from YouTube. That's why I did my little joke about state-controlled Britain. And I've got one of those desks that goes up and down. Yes, I had a slap on the wrist. Definitely got a slap on the wrist for talking the truth, which is very frustrating, but there you go. Right, let's get into the next question. This is from Zinc. And Zinc is saying, when did you get over the fear of having a heart attack on the carnivore diet? Any slight pain? I'm thinking this is it. Been to hospital to check with an ECG and all fine. I will just broaden that question before Dr. Ebb jumps in, because one of the things that happened, I lost both my parents to cancer, and also a breast cancer sufferer was my girlfriend, who also died. So by the time I'm 23, I'd been touched by cancer a lot. But going back to my mum and dad, I was absolutely convinced that my genetic card was up. I was definitely going to die of cancer. Once I got to 50 and I'd had all the colonoscopies and all the sort of scares when I was high carb, I started to eat this way, or low carb initially, then keto, and then into carnivore on my 55th birthday, or to that bloke who watched me on my 35th birthday. And I think what happened was I realized that I'd been lied to, and that what I did with my life was much more important than anything else. Now, I've never had the fear of a heart attack on carnivore, but I have had a fear of a heart attack. My past, I've been talking about a bit lately. I actually tried out for the original series of the Gladiators. I was a contestant, or potential contestant. And because I'm very competitive, I was due to be on the show as long as I did the last 800 meters on the treadmill in X time. And I could easily do that. I had the school record for 800 meters at school for a bit. And I thought, not only am I going to qualify for the program, I'm going to smash this time. And so I went on the treadmill and felt very uneasy after about 400 meters, had to stop. And they were really egging me on. Oh, you can finish this. You can finish this. So I pushed myself harder than I should have done, and I collapsed. And I woke up with the St. John's ambulance men around me, like a big turkey, you know, with the silver foil around me, hyperventilating, couldn't get my breath, super sweating. So that was a bit of a rude awakening. Then I had a coronary artery calcium scan many, many years later, decades later, and it was 639. No, the first 6 weeks of training after that, I wore a pulsar heart monitor around my chest. And then I realized what a complete and utter waste of time. I really did. Because no amount of prevention, if you're going to have a heart attack, I think no amount of prevention after that is really going to make a difference, as long as you're eating, and this is the punchline, a carnivore diet, because it's so anti-inflammatory. It's the proper human diet. It's what we're designed to eat. And I just think it's going to keep myself at a low insulin state. My body composition is going to be better. So all the things that are going to stop a heart attack are all covered with the carnivore diet. So in fact, having a fear of a heart attack on carnivore is the least of my worries, actually. My biggest worry about this way of eating, and I'll tell you what Ax is doing in a minute, but we'll talk about T-shirts in a second. But anyway, it's the least of my worries. My bad health or the potential for bad health is the least of my worries because of the way I'm eating. I've not been to the doctor for 10 years since I went low carb, and I used to go to the doctor every single Christmas with a cold. I'd have antibiotics. I totally believed in everything that I should do, like, Lemsip and all these things to get rid of colds and coughs and flu and everything. And I don't need it anymore. Now, Abs has distracted me because we've both got T-shirts on we shouldn't wear. I've got a T-shirt from Jimmy Fallon's show as a guest, sorry, not a guest, but in the audience. And it was such a great time in New York. I bought the T-shirt, but I know a lot of people don't like Jimmy Fallon. I don't. I've gone off him because of what's happened in the last 4 years with the stupid restrictions and all that and how they supported it. But Dr. Abs has got the Huel, Huel T-shirt
Well,
on.
don't just say it out loud, Stephen. We don't want to give him free advertising. I've just covered it up and written the word beef.
Well, no, I'm going to say, and people have picked up on it and said, "What you got that for?" And exactly, it's much better.
I didn't know it was a Huel shirt when I put it on.
Yeah, a bit of sticky tape, stick it over it, and put the word beef, which is much better. But there you go.
Give me 30 seconds. I'm just going to change it and come back.
Yeah, right. Okay. We will come back to the heart attack question then in a second with Dr. Abs. But anyway, that just reminds me. So the Carnivore Conference is this weekend. And if you want to get tickets, I will put a link in the chat and you get your golden ticket. If you click on there and then you put in the code Stephen, STEPHEN, you will get £20 off. So that's what you should do. So I'll put that in the chat for you. And Dr. Abs is back now with a decent T-shirt on, a white sweatshirt. And right, when did you get over the fear of having a heart attack on the carnivore diet, Dr. Abs?
About 1 second after I started. So for me, it's a slightly different story because, as someone who works clinically, I've treated patients who are worried about a heart attack for good reason, or who have had heart attacks, or who have lists of medications as long as their arm to prevent heart attacks, et cetera, et cetera. My undergraduate degree involves cardiology and biochemistry and all these things. So I already had some grounding of how important these things were. But when I started to look into carnivore, seriously, like to the point where I thought, this is actually amazing, like what you can achieve on it. I looked at the relationship between heart attacks and, say, predisposing factors. I looked at LDL cholesterol. I looked at all these sorts of things. And so I understood this sort of mechanistic pathway, if you like, that leads to those sorts of things. And because I understood that relatively well, I was never really that worried when I started, because I have the knowledge to understand that, one of the main factors is things like elevated blood glucose, which causes glycative damage to the circulation system. I understood blood pressure plays a role in physical damage, like taking a punch to vasculature, and looking at all these things. And obviously, Stephen and I don't tick these boxes, and many of you watching don't tick these boxes because of the way we live and eat. And so there's nothing for me to worry about, and if I was going to have a heart attack, possibly I should have had it already, because my LDL has skyrocketed, which I'm really happy about, by the way. And it would have happened already. But what's actually happened is that my blood glucose level is completely flat all the time. The only time it goes up or down is when it's meant to, for example, during exercise. And my blood pressure is very, very stable. Might have slight variances here and there during the day, but according to the normative ranges, which is nonsense really, as Stephen and I discussed on our podcast episode, which isn't released yet, but it will be in a few weeks. It's technically, I'm slightly on the low side, but do I have any symptoms? Absolutely not. So for me, none of those boxes are actually ticked in terms of predisposing factors, as well as the fact that I understand what these sorts of things are required for that heart attack to happen. And I don't tick any of those boxes either. So I'm not worried at all.
No, I'm not. There we go. Right. Okay. Next question is from Maggie. Oh, by the way, we've got some impatient people putting questions up. We answer the questions fully. And if we can't get to them, then we do an extra 30 minutes on my Skool community where you can get a catch up. Now, do you want us to just do what other people do and give you like 1 second, 1 sentence answers that don't mean anything to you, or say, go and look at this video? No, we give you answers. So if you're fed up with us not getting to your question, which is one particular person in the chat, I do apologize, but there are people in front of you.
There's always one.
Yeah, there's always one. And hello, Jonathan, by the way. He said good evening, so good evening. And hello to Andrew Scarborough, who's also in there. Great person that we should really spend a bit more time on. Anyway, Maggie May. I wish I'd never seen your face, by the way. Tips on how to protect yourself from getting a holiday cold from flying, please. I've met so many people with colds after a holiday this summer. Thank you for your time. Not sure how to super chat. I don't know what device you're on, but I think there should be some place somewhere on the screen, maybe in the description, where you can click super chat, and that'd be nice.
Just
Maggie.
to the right of where you type your things, there's a little $sign. You just press that first. But yeah, in terms of cold, I mean, I can't actually remember the last time I had a cold, to be honest, even when people around me have. I personally, Steve, give me your opinion after this, but I personally don't think there's anything you need to do acutely, and it's more about what you do chronically as a lifestyle, because getting ill is a function of obviously your environment. I think that goes without saying, but then also you individually in terms of your immunity, your immune system, and your susceptibility to getting ill. And if you're on a carnivore lifestyle, you've got nothing to worry about. So I don't think there's anything you need to do acutely apart from maintaining your lifestyle and your diet, and that's the best that you can do.
Yeah, and think that's paraphrasing exactly what I was saying earlier. Carnivore doesn't make you indestructible. If I got hit by a car, it would hurt. I promise you, it really would. But I used to be the person that got colds all the time, and I've made my immune system a bit more robust. And I think that's what's happening, which is a posher way of saying what Abs just said. I haven't had a cold. I haven't been to the doctor for a decade. So what's the best thing you can do? The best thing you can do is make your immune system or yourself as robust as possible. That's it. I really do think that's it. If you want sort of practical advice, if someone's sneezing and coughing all over the place, maybe don't stand so close to them. But
I mean,
to be honest,
if people want to go a little bit deeper in terms of other things, you can increase muscle mass. You can train in such a way to become fitter, so that you're holding muscle mass, because the presence of muscle mass directly correlates to the presence of more sort of metabolic pathways, such as, say, the Krebs cycle occurring at any one time in your body, because these things happen in the mitochondria. More muscle mass equals more mitochondria. Once these things are happening more, you have more steps. It's like Krebs cycle is literally like a cycle that goes around in a circle, and one thing gets converted into another, and it's always happening. It's not one at a time. And the presence of these intermediate steps inside the Krebs cycle, which are called intermediates, Krebs cycle intermediates. Okay, so you might need to watch this back more than once, but the presence of Krebs cycle intermediates has a direct cause and effect relationship to the upregulation of the human immune system. If people want to look into this in a little bit more detail, you can look at a paper with the reference Martinez-Reyes 2020. A very good paper that explains the actual mechanism of that. I won't go into the mechanism here because we've got other questions to get to, but at least that will point you in the right direction. And I've just seen a question in the chat pop up saying, is that a Germany top? Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think it's Andrew asking that. Right, okay, let's go on to the next question. Paul is saying, when I talk to people I work with, I'm amazed how they think their doctor's nutritional advice is gospel. They insist their doctor knows more than me. Yeah, that's just a statement. And yes, Paul, that's great. I misread that. I thought that was a question, but anyway, yes, you're absolutely right. Day is saying, in previous frequently asked questions, you spoke about reducing coffee because of the negative effects of acrylamide. Are these effects also present in products that contain added caffeine, e.g. Keto Pro, Keto Bombs? No. Absolutely not. It's all down to the roasting process. So caffeine is not roasted in that situation. But I know we've answered that before. Right. Gaza has obviously seen your excellent video Can the amazing new style Pro LED face mask be used in conjunction with Dermarolling? Great question. And if so, how would you space the treatments out? And for those that don't know Dr. Abs, please subscribe to his channel. Go and watch a brilliant video he's done about an LED mask, which is a face mask at the moment.
Yes, that just came out a couple of hours ago. The reason I would recommend that video, apart from the fact that it's on my channel, is because every manufacturer always tell you their mask is the best, and that's an opinion. And I hate to use those things when I'm looking at those sorts of devices. And the video that I just put out shows you how manufacturers actually manipulate statistics to make their device look better. And I actually go through a couple different devices in the video without opinion and just numbers, which are objective because numbers can't lie. Using independent testing, not even testing that I've done, because you need millions of pounds to do these things properly. Yeah, you can watch that if you wish. But that particular mask, you can use it with dermarolling for sure. So you can use it acutely in terms of the time immediately before or after dermarolling, but also chronically as the weeks go by. So if you're talking about the period around the dermarolling itself, if you wanted to, what you could do is use something like near infrared just before you dermaroll. So in that particular mask, it would be the green setting that's called recovery, I believe. That's mainly near infrared. That will lower inflammation, so that when you do the dermarolling, your ability to generate an inflammatory reaction to the dermarolling, if you do it wrong, is then greatly reduced. Then you do your dermarolling, and then you can do your LED afterwards. You would, in terms of what you do afterwards, you would probably use the blue setting, which I think is called Target or Acne or something like that, because that blue is antibacterial. So talking about that first question, which Squidtooth gave, about keeping things clean and sterile, that blue light is very antibacterial. And so putting that on immediately after needling will reduce your risk of infection from that as well. So that's how you do it around the actual dermarolling. Now, in terms of the chronic usage, week by week, you can use it, every day. That's not a problem. The day after needling, in case you're still quite red, I probably wouldn't use the red. If you're red, don't use red. That's a rough guide, because if you're inflamed, adding red light is going to increase inflammation. So when your face stops being red, then you can give it some red, if that makes sense. Whereas if your face is red itself, you want to go near infrared, because that will help quicken the reduction of the inflammation. In terms of spacing them out, yeah, I mean, your dermarolling, generally speaking, at the particular length I'm talking about, is probably about once a week. Let's say for about 6 weeks, then you take 6 weeks off. And then the LED in this particular context, a mask is never going to be as powerful as a clinical device, hence why it's a mask and you can use it at home. So you can use that every day and it's not a problem.
That's brilliant. And there's plenty of people I deal with who have skin issues that they'd like to improve quicker than they have done previously. I just want to point out to people that the way we talk about health, for instance, we talk about heart attacks. Nowadays, the atmosphere and environment that we're giving to babies is not so good. And the CDC has just changed the developmental milestones for children. I don't know if you know that. So the walking they used to reckon that the baby should walk within 12 to 15 months, and they're now saying 18 months. And rolling used to be from 3 to 5 months, and it's now 6 months. And talking used to be 12 months, and now it's 15 months. And what this points out to me is that our health is going backwards.
Yeah.
The retardation of development of children is now acknowledged within the CDC. I'm not saying that's a good thing, by the way. Now, carnivores, when they have kids, they always beat these numbers. I had a client straight away say, "Did you see this? My child was talking at 11 months, not 15." So anyway, just a little aside.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I think us accepting it is really bad. Right. Now then, vitamin C recommendations. Recommendations for vitamin C and the best time to take it. Thank you. Right. Okay. Do we need vitamin C? That's the thing. Now, one of the things I'm talking about at the Carnivore Conference is one of the reasons why we don't need anywhere near as much vitamin C as someone who's eating carbs and plants, those sort of things, which is all down to the non-heme iron. Now, non-heme iron, which is the iron we get from plants or not from animals, however you want to look at it, there is an enzyme called vitamin C reductase. And if you take non-heme iron, it has to have vitamin C to convert it to the ferrous form. the heme iron to be able to be digested. So if you're eating lots of carbs, eating lots of plants and veg, yeah, I've given you away a little bit of my information, then you need more vitamin C. You also need more vitamin C if you're eating glucose. So because vitamin C and glucose fight for the same transporter. So I'm going to say to you that we can tell you what the recommended daily allowance is for people. It's normally something like 120 milligrams, but that's based on 40 to 65% carbohydrate intake, and the person that's eating lots of plants and converting lots of non-heme iron to heme iron, so they can absorb it or try to. Personally, I wouldn't sweat over it. Now, if you've had some sort of collagen problem, or you feel that you need vitamin C, then it is trial and error, but I would start with about 120 milligrams. But more often than not, you don't really need it. Dr. Abs?
Nothing to add. Completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah, great. Okay. And also, if you smoke, you need more vitamin C, but that's because you're causing a lot of damage to your body. Just in case you didn't know that, but I'm sure you do if you smoke. Right. Creeby. Can I use the same products on my eyelids as I do on my face and neck? Do I really need an eye-specific cream? Thank you for sharing your knowledge and insights with us. Love from Canada.
It's a great question, because everywhere you go, every department store, every drugstore, there's a face cream, there's an eye cream, there's a foot cream, there's a arse cheek cream, whatever you want to think of or make. Someone's made it somewhere. But here's my thoughts. No. Okay. You absolutely don't need to buy all these separate things. You don't need a specific eye cream. You can use the same products because skin is still skin. Like, you're still going to have fibroblasts, you're still going to have keratinocytes, you're still going to have elastic fibers. The thickness may be different, but it's still the same physiology. It's not like they suddenly don't need a blood supply or oxygen supply. So it's a great way to market things, because you say, oh, you need this separate thing. No, you don't. It's exactly the same as everywhere else. Because it's thinner, it may have a lower tolerance for strength of ingredients, which is something different. In which case you may need to dilute what you're using to some extent if it's a strong ingredient, such as tretinoin, which is very strong, or very high strength retinol, which is an irritant by itself anyway. But apart from that, in terms of the principle, the actual concept of the ingredient, such as vitamin A, yeah, I still need vitamin A. So I personally don't think you should be buying separate things for eyes and any other parts of the body. You would just need to apply them possibly slightly different until they get used to it, in which case, and then once they do get used to it, you just apply them the exact same as everywhere else. I'll give you an example. When I started using tretinoid, my eyelids became very red and sore, more than everywhere else, because everywhere else is thicker skin. So I just used a lower dose and took more breaks. But then eventually they got used to it. And then when I was using tretinoid, I don't use it anymore, but when I was using tretinoid regularly, I just get a big lump on my finger, put it literally everywhere, even amount straight away, and there was never any issue. That's it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Right, let's go to the next question. By the way, someone said that my podcast with Richard Smith is really good. Yes, it is, but he's having a Sunday off because he's doing the Carnivore conference organising, and Dr. Abs has kindly sat in to improve the situation. Actually, give us even more.
I think that was Vitalius who was referring to the one that I did.
Ah, right. I misread it. Sorry. So what's going on behind the scenes is I have to pick out the questions before we get to this bit, and I've misread that, but that's great. Okay, right. Roberto. Hello, Roberto. I bought a panel with 1000 red and infrared LED bulbs. Is there scientific evidence that this is good to irradiate the whole body from head to toe, or am I just wasting my time?
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with using LED around your whole body. It's perfectly reasonable. In fact, that's one of the first uses we noticed was on the body and not actually on the face. In terms of, is that panel any good? I've no idea, because I don't know which panel it is. But you absolutely can do the whole body, and you've got nothing to worry about whatsoever. What you should be worried about is the skin on the body. Doesn't matter which part of the body, what is going on in the skin. Is there a medical condition preventing you from using it anywhere? Is there a medication preventing you from using it anywhere, regardless of whether it's the skin on your face or on your body?
Okay, cool. That's good. I'm not used to short answers. Can you tell?
I can tell, yeah.
Because we normally have the young Richard here. But anyway,
Yeah.
right, let's go to the next one. Tropic of Cancer. If one, oh, I like that. If one were to eat a mixed diet, how far apart should the fat meal and the carb meal be to not mess up the Randall cycle? Right. If one was to eat a mixed diet, what do you think, Abs?
I'd say about 3 days. There is a level of inertia that goes on when you go down the left or the right path, if you want to think of it that way, in terms of the Randall cycle itself, whether you're oxidizing glucose or whether you're oxidizing long chain fatty acids. And yes, there is a cross inhibition that goes on. And if you are eating a unbalanced meal, as nature intended, then you're only going to go down one of those paths. If you throw a spanner in the works and suddenly you add the other side in, that inertia, based on what I've personally read, which is not everything, I suspect the inertia is there for around 72 hours, roughly speaking. But again, do you know what? That depends on your metabolic status as well, and how long you've been doing this for. So 3 days is going to be a rough guide. And if you want more detail on this, the people I would recommend are Bart Kay and Eddie Goki, who know this far better than I do. And I've got no problem saying that. I'm happy to say that. But my opinion, my lesser opinion compared to those two, is around 72 hours.
Yeah, that's a great opinion. And for those that don't know the Randall cycle is basically reciprocal inhibition of the use of either fat or sugar within the cell to produce energy. And personally, I would not have a carb meal. That's just a personal thing. So it wouldn't be 72 hours for me. It would be ad infinitum, really. So anyway, but it's a very good question. My question would be, why are you doing that? But anyway, so this is the person that didn't like the fact I didn't get straight to the answer. That was at 6 minutes past 7, and it is now 7:36. You see, it's taken half an hour to get there, but we are answering the questions properly. Tell something about Tretion Plus sunscreen on acne and pimples.
Tell something about them.
Yeah.
I mean, tretinoin can help acne and pimples, and sunscreen is needed whenever you're using anything, including tretinoin. I'll be honest, I'm not too sure what to
What the
say
question
on
is.
that.
That's
Yeah.
right. Let's move on. I just wanted to get to it. How Lord, my face dries too much from. Oh, sorry, my computer's going off. Let me just press that button. Adapalene, I think that is.
Yeah, adapalene.
Yeah, 0.1%. What should I do? Only other product I use is Senka facial wash.
Sure. So what you can do in that situation is apply the adapalene using squalane oil. So you get some squalane oil from The Ordinary, very cheap, by the way, in pounds. I think it's less than £10, probably less than $10. And it lasts like 6 months or a year, depending on how much you use. What I want you to do is to take a little bit less of the adapalene than you normally use, and then put that in the palm of your hand. And then with the dropper from the squalane oil, put in a good sort of 3 drops, maybe 4 drops, and just mix it in your hand. The adapalene itself has the consistency of maybe something along the lines of, say, toothpaste. You mix in that squalane oil, it becomes very, very runny, much more runny. And at that point, it will go a lot further, but also it's oiling everything up, which is nicer because your skin wants oil to maintain the hydration level inside it. And that's going to be a big help in terms of how to use it while you've got dryness, because you're lowering the dose, so there's less reaction, but also you're applying something to seed in hydration at the same time.
Excellent. Rabbi Rob, thank you for the £5. Great supporter of the channel. Dr. Abs, could you update us, please, on when we'll be able to grow our receding gums back? Procedure, cost, where to have it done, etc.
So the studies are being done. I have seen them. It works in a way that even Jesus himself would be proud, if I may say so. And I suspect it's probably going to be next year, is what I say. So not too long. The procedure itself will most likely be an injectable that you inject into the gums. And what you're essentially trying to do is stimulate the mitochondria. I actually can't give too much details about it, but that would be roughly what it is. In terms of cost, I suspect it's going to be ballpark a few £100, depending on which country you're in as well. And it may be something that you do either once or a couple of times with a couple weeks in between if you're going to do it 2 times or 3 times. But it is highly dependent upon the dental status of the patient as well. So you can have the receded gums, but if you have receded gums with active suboptimal gum health, that's a different question entirely. And it's not for you. It is for people whose gums are nice and tight everywhere, like a tightened cuff around a wrist, and it's past recession that you've got, as opposed to currently receding gums, which is something completely different. That's a current ongoing disease. It's not trying to treat disease. It's trying to treat the symptoms of past disease, which is very different.
Absolutely. Right. We have another super chat. This is from Sherry Morgan. Thank you, Sherry. You have a 2-part question. I'll answer the second part in a second. But the first one is, I am experiencing Piia and failed dental implants. Doctor said it might be scurvy. I don't think it is. Any other condition you think it may be?
Petechia, I'm not actually sure what that is. Are you trying to say petechiae?
Yes.
Okay, it
Little
must be
red
that.
dots.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's something like that. So for those that don't know what that is, in case it helps other people, it's just like small round spots, and you get it on the skin, sometimes from like bleeding under the skin, generally red or maybe purple, a little bit brown. Sometimes it can look a bit like a rash as well. They're not a disease. They're generally a sign of an underlying condition, which could be either something quite minor or maybe something quite serious as well. We'll go into too much detail. In this particular case, in Sherry's case, without actually having seen it, I genuinely, it is actually impossible to come up with a diagnosis. But in terms of the failed implants, they may not actually be related. You never know, because there are so many things that could be causing the petechiae. I mean, it could be physical strain, some kind of infection, blood clotting problem, some medication you're taking, even autoimmune problem, not enough vitamin C, like we mentioned earlier today. Without knowing which of those is, or maybe something else, it's very impossible to say if that's what's causing the failure of the dental implants. In terms of scurvy, I'm assuming you're carnivore here. I doubt it will be scurvy, because with no carbohydrates, you're not going to be competing with glucose or vitamin C's entry into the cell. So I don't personally think it's that, unless, of course, you are having carbohydrates, in which case potentially it could be. As to any of the condition, honestly, there are so many when it comes to failure of the dental implants, but it's not necessarily a condition. You know, in my time when I was looking into those things, it's actually not a condition that is the majority of the reason as to why they fail. It's because of the oral hygiene not quite being good enough. And I would suggest you spend a little bit of time with the hygienist if that's the case. Obviously, I don't know if that's the case, because most people think they are brushing fine, but nearly all of them aren't. And I can see that straight away, because there are signs on the teeth themselves and the gum surrounding them, which tell you, or tell the dentist, if plaque has been left there without being brushed off. And there's no argument, because you can't lie, you can't pretend it's not there. It's right in front of your eyes, so you know for sure that it hasn't actually been brushed off. So I can't say whether it's a condition in particular, but I would suggest you double check whether it is actually a condition or not something else.
Yes. By the way, I read what's written, because that's not how you spell that condition. It's Pete, by the way. But anyway, Sherry, the second part of the question: what do you suggest for your clients that need to gain weight? And are you taking on new clients? Yes, I am. The ukcarnivore.com/booking. You can book me. And what do I suggest if you need to gain weight? Well, if you want to gain muscle and bone density, then carnivore diet is the best thing to do. Eating enough, bit of resistance training, but you could be under fat as well. This is the thing. People need fat, body fat. So it could be that you are too lean. So then we'd look at that. So I can't really give you one-to-one advice here, because I'd need to know more about what you actually mean by weight. And But that's what we do when you're booking a session. We go into that. Okay, right. Okay, let's go into the next thing. I think this is where we're up to. Is Ret A the gold standard?
It's a good question. I mean, what I said to Mary before was, depends on the person. Everyone's got a different standard. However, it's the commonly accepted gold standard. Doesn't mean it's the actual gold standard. It's the commonly believed gold standard, I should say. For example, for those that don't know, I put a video out last month on my channel. The thumbnail is like a blue and red hot split of the thumbnail. And it's called Face Testosterone Removes All Wrinkles or something like that. And in the thumbnail, it says how to remove literally every wrinkle. Now, it's not the best scan of the paper because it came out in 1966 and someone scanned it in. But that paper, which I go through, shows you how even patients who at the time were, I think, 88 years old, it didn't just improve wrinkles, it actually got rid of every single one. And I mean every single one. And not just the wrinkles, but the actual texture of the skin and the way it dips up and down because people are gaunt in their face. The fat actually came back as well. And they look decades younger from just using a single cream. So my opinion is Retin A is the commonly believed gold standard, but I think there are possibly better opportunities out, better options out there. And for those that want to look into those sorts of things, have a look at that video I did. And honestly, you will really question the quality of these before and after pictures that companies put out in terms of how much improvement they get. Because this one cream on its own, not a range of 10 with some celebrity endorsement, this one cream on its own got rid of every single one in a way that you just don't see in modern skincare now.
Great answer. Carnivore Bot, who is a real person, not a bot. I've noticed my hair has started growing at a fast pace. Even my bald patch has started to grow, and I've been carnivore for a few years. Yep, that's quite a common thing. Also, colouring. I went very grey. I am grey, but I went very grey before I was carnivore, and then I went a bit darker again. But now I'm 60 or 40, depending on what channel you look at. I'm grey. Anyway, let's get on to the next one. Oak Hearts. My testosterone levels have dropped since going carnivore. 10 months now, from 9.95 to 5.91 nanomoles per litre. My free T4 is 20 and my TSH is 1.16. Should I be worried that my testosterone levels have dropped? No, only if you've got symptoms. That's the only time you need to worry about any numbers. Because you're looking at numbers before symptoms, and it's the other way around. I would never ever go to my doctor and say, there is nothing wrong with me, can you find something, please? I want you to test to find things out. Now that might be a little bit sort of too broad. Yes, there are things that can lurk in the background that a blood test will reveal that you're not aware of, but more often than not with questions like this, and I'm not having a go, by the way, Oak Hearts, you're a good supporter and I'm just trying to be helpful. If you've noticed decreases, let's do this properly then. So let's say you've noticed decreases in your libido, your strength, you're having dizzy spells, you're fatigued, then maybe there's something going on. But who has the most notoriously low testosterone in the carnivore community? Dr. Sean Baker. Now, you wouldn't look at Dr. Sean Baker and think, well, there's a guy that needs some testosterone. So I think I'm just trying to get it back to basics. It's how you look and feel, what your strength levels are, and your energy, how you're sleeping, all those sort of things. Libido is a very good marker as well. Now, when I went carnivore, within 3 months, my testosterone went up 30%. Did I increase in every way by 30%? No. But I was a phlebotomist, so there was a number saying you've gone up 30%. If I hadn't done it, I would not have suddenly been mystified by why I'm 30% fitter, 30% stronger, 30% more rampant in bed, So it's probably an irrelevant question. There's a reason for that. Don't forget, when you go carnivore, you need much less T3 because T3 is a cofactor in the moving of pyruvate across the mitochondrial membrane. When you're high carb person. You need a lot of T3 to do that. So when you get into this way of eating, you don't need lots of T3. Well, if you don't need lots of T3, you need a lot less T4. If you need a lot less T4, you'll have a lot less TSH. It's really simple. See, this is the thing. Now, your testosterone might have gone down because of that. You see, all of these hormones are all interlinked and the body talks to each other. This is why you find that some things can seem a little bit confusing if you look in isolation. But I'm sure if we got 156 biomarkers across your bloods and looked at your symptoms, everything would be explainable. But anyway, did you want to add to that, Abs?
Yeah, I think you're the expert in that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Ribeye Rob is saying, check out Fat Cow Skincare. I use the tallow face cream and soap, and I think Stephen has a discount code. I do have a discount code, and I'll look it up for you. I'm trying to keep on top of the questions and keep Abs, under
on my toes.
Yeah, right. Cree B. Meat is quite expensive where I live. Cheaper meat is very questionable quality. Can't trace back its source from the grocer. How can I transform my diet to carnivore with budget in mind?
I think that comes down to making a relationship with the local butcher and buying in bulk. It's literally as simple as that. And there are, I was in a restaurant called Gaucho yesterday. And one of the people I was with, she said that her husband knows the place where Gaucho buy their meats from. So he buys 24 kilo packs of meat, and it costs him, I think so it's top end restaurant quality, and it costs him, I think, about £30 per kilo of meat. So that's incredibly cheap because of the bulk that's been used. But you can also look online, and there are farms where you can buy big packs of meat all in one go. My recommendation personally is to look at regenerative farming. I think that's much better for the environment, increases the biodiversity, increases, crucially, which is what I'm really passionate about, increases the amount of topsoil, which helps all of us and in all the species that live on this earth. So I recommend personally going through regenerative farmers and buying direct from them.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And also, I think one of the things you could look at is supermarket meat like Morrison's and getting the cheaper cuts, because some of the meat there is not that bad actually. So I'm just speaking up for Morrison's. I have no affiliation with them.
Representing the North.
Yeah, their meat's pretty good, I think. You can use shin beef. You can look at braising steak, for instance. Braising steak, you just cook it for a little bit longer. It's nice and tender. In fact, in my meal plan, I've suggested that to a few people, and they think, wow, this is just like ribeye. Well, yeah, if you cook it right, which is in the recipe instructions, you can get the cheaper meats and make a big deal out of it. Obviously, ground beef with some grass-fed butter is just beautiful. Eggs are still cheap, relatively speaking, compared to the sort of ultra-processed rubbish. So you can do it on a budget, definitely. All right. The next question is, oh, by the way, my code I've put the link to the tallow soap, and my code is Stephen15, and you get 15% off. So that's good. Right. Okay. Now, this is an interesting one. 6,000 milligrams sodium, now 9,000 milligrams. Target 12,000. Struggling to finish 9,000. My goal is to lower insulin by increasing sodium. Your thoughts to lower insulin with NaCl?
Sodium chloride.
Yes, sorry. Was 97. Now 85 fasting glucose. I think this is the wrong way to look at this completely.
Yeah.
Right. Two ways of looking at this. One is, why sodium being pushed as a thing with insulin? Okay, well, that's because we are talking about water retention and normally a carb diet, a carb-based diet, 40 to 65% carbohydrates. Now, every molecule of carbohydrate or glucose will have 3 molecules of water, and that will also have a huge effect on your sodium and salt balance. Now, what's the best way to lower insulin? Cut your carbs. That's it. That's the best way. That is the best way. And you might need a higher fat diet. That's what I would say. I don't think you need to do it. Yes, there is some sort of link between sodium and glucose absorption, but I think that's not based on a person on a carnivore diet. I've never seen anyone have problems with insulin eating this way. Only time I've ever seen it, and I've got 15 years as a specialist practitioner in obesity and diabetes. The only time I've ever seen people have problems with insulin is when they're eating a lot of carbohydrates. Okay, all right. I was waiting for Abs to chime in there, but he did not, so that's fair enough. Sounded like I was preaching, and I really wasn't. Right, but it's an interesting theory. If there is a reason why you're using sodium as well as a carnivore diet, then I'd be really interested to hear.
Yeah.
The other thing is you need to look at normative ranges and whether high really is high.
Yeah.
You know, that's someone's opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Just
all
before
about
you read this question, Stephen, just so
Yes.
you know, I think there are a couple of super chats from Ribeye Rob after this question, just so we don't miss them.
Did we not do the receding gums one? Right. Okay.
There's that one, and then I think he's done a couple more, just to be fair to him, just so we don't miss. But we can do this
Yeah, I
question
thought
and
we
then.
did the receding gums procedure cost.
Well,
We
I
did.
can read his. I've got them here, so I can read his other ones.
Yeah, go for it.
The super
Go
chat
for it.
ones. So it says, current thinking is dietary cholesterol doesn't affect serum cholesterol. If true, why do your lipoprotein/lipids skyrocket when eating carnivore? So dietary fats, saturated fat, does not necessarily indicate a plasma increase. Yes, there's the question there. A really good paper to understand that is Volk 2014, V for Victor, OLK 2014. Really fantastic paper, which basically shows this beyond all reasonable doubt. They can skyrocket because that's what they're meant to do. These proteins, these lipoproteins, are there because they're repair mechanisms. They're firemen, paramedics, whichever way you want to look at it, ready to help repair anything that's damaged. And that's why you're meant to have quite a lot of it, and that's why it's meant to be there. And if we look at, butchering his name now, I think it's Sotomoto 2024. The data in that study shows that actually, when you are healthier in terms of BMI, yes, the range is our opinion. I completely get that, but I think it's universally agreed that if your BMI is around, I don't know, 22, it's much better than if it's like 40. You're healthier than if it's 40. The people that were in a healthier range had much higher increases in LDL when they eat this way, or when they eat low carb, which technically wasn't even that low, if I'm honest, versus the people with the heavily obese, like properly obese, they didn't get it to rise even on low carb. So actually, it seems to be that it's a sign of better metabolic health that it does it. And so I think the reason it skyrockets because you're achieving better metabolic health in the carnivore diet / lifestyle. Stephen, anything you disagree with or want to add at all?
No, I think that's really great. I just realized that we are running out of time. So what happens
Yeah.
now is I am doing screenshots of all the questions. I think the other thing from Ribeye Rob is, could I see you for a consult in person regarding possible
Synecos?
Yeah, and to look at my teeth to tell me where I stand. Is this possible? That's from Rob.
It can indeed, because I don't really do dentistry that much anymore. I can only give you a rough opinion, but Synecos, absolutely no problem at all.
Excellent. Right. So just for those people that want to know, we will be going over to the Skool community, and I am cutting and pasting all the questions because we're going to do an extra 30 minutes. I will put in the chat how you can get to the Skool community. And what happens there is you click on that link, then you can join. And like I say, we will be doing an extra 30 minutes. We do this every single Sunday, and you can become part of the paid community. It's $4 a month. You can cancel at any time. We will be there doing a live on a Monday night. We do a live on a Sunday night within the community. So it's a smaller thing. You get your questions answered quicker. That's less than $1 a week, which is amazing. You have myself, you have Richard Smith normally. Dr. Abs has kindly come in to help out for a little bit because he's wonderful like that. But the link is in the chat if you want to join the Skool community. Like I say, it is $4 a month. But once you're in, there is 9 free courses. There's a keto course. There is a protein course, cholesterol. There's 10 courses, I think, or 9. Yeah, 9. He's putting 9 up. Yeah, and there's just free ebooks. There's just tons of stuff for you to get to grips with. We always have playbacks, we have loads of podcasts, and it's a lot of fun, and there's some really nice people there. So anyway, on the YouTube, we're going to say thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see us over in Skool, we will be there with probably maybe 15-20 people in the Skool community doing our 30 minutes extra time. Hope to see you then. Thanks ever so much for watching.